You know, Vladimir Putin said something, one of the most interesting things. He said your election was rigged because you have mail-in voting. He said mail-in voting, every election. He said no country has mail-in voting. It's impossible to have mail-in voting and have honest election. But Vladimir Putin, smart guy, said you can't have an honest election with mail-in voting. And he said there's not a country in the world that uses it now.
A veritable litany of lies can be found in those comments. The 2020 election was not rigged. Donald Trump lost, and many, many other countries also have mail-in voting. The comments are also a really important and revealing look at just how much sway Putin has with Trump, just how imprinted every word he says becomes on Donald Trump's mind. He seemed to recite exactly what Putin said. Putin is clearly looking to Donald Trump and using this misinformation as a tool to sow chaos here in the United States ahead of our next election. So not only is Donald Trump taking election advice from an autocrat who won 88% of the vote in whatever Russia calls an election, he's repeating those lies and undermining a method of voting that helped him win the presidential election in November. According to Politico, quote, Republicans poured tens of millions of dollars last year into convincing their voters that casting ballots by mail was safe after Trump spent years bashing the practice and baselessly insisting it was rife with fraud. And it worked, with Republican voters closing or even reversing the mail voting gap with Democrats in several states. Joining our conversation is former county recorder of Maricopa County, Arizona, senior fellow in American democracy at Harvard University. Stephen Richer is here. Molly and Tim are with us as well. Stephen, thank you so much for being here. I wonder how you feel sort of having to protect democracy from American disinformation, hearing an American president amplify and repeat and spread Russian disinformation. What does that do to your very informed synapses?
Well, you don't have to be terribly well informed to know you shouldn't take your election administration cues from a dictator, especially from a dictator from Russia. But I've been coming on this show for 4 years, and I'll say what I've always said, which was the 2020 election wasn't stolen. Mail-in voting is not rife with fraud. The 2024 election had mail-in voting, and the 2024 election wasn't stolen, and Donald Trump won it. So I don't know why he's talking about this now, other than, I guess, Putin talked to him. But the next thing you know is Putin's going to say, hey, you know what's even better is just not having elections at all, and maybe you should try that.
Stephen, I just want to continue to put the facts out there, as you always do when you're here. This is from the New York Times reporting about how much Trump benefited from mail-in voting. The Times reports this, quote, Pennsylvania, widely seen as the most important presidential battleground, had one of the greatest swings in mail voting. Its share of male voters who were registered Republicans jumped to 33% in 2024 from 24% in 2020. In deep red Oklahoma, Kansas, and Iowa, Republicans made up a majority of male voters in last year's election after Democrats dominated those states in 2020. And in Arizona, the swing state where a vast majority of voters cast their ballots by mail, Republicans had an 8-point advantage over Democrats in mail voting. What does it say that a tool that benefits not just Republicans but Trump is something that he'll so easily cast, overboard because Putin says so?
I don't know, but it's got to be very frustrating to Republican political strategists who, as you noted, spent millions of dollars in 2024 convincing Republicans just to vote in any way possible, vote by mail, vote in person. But I'll tell you, actually, political strategists like it when you vote by mail, when you vote early, because then they don't have to spend those depleting resources, those last minutes, convincing Republican voters to show up on election day. So a lot of strategists really like it. Again, it's been around for a long time. These are not new practices. President Trump himself has voted by mail in many past elections. And so I don't know what triggered this in his brain. It seemed like 24 worked out pretty well for him. Confidence in American elections was at a very high level in the beginning of 2025. So why he's revisiting this now, again, I can't point to anything other than his conversation with President Putin, which is alarming on many levels.
And since this is sort of in your sightline every day, where are your greatest and gravest concerns about the state of American democracy today?
I think a lot of people are looking at cybersecurity within election administration because of the president's defunding of CISA and his efforts to reform the Election Assistance Commission. But I'm looking at the same thing that I've been looking at for the past 4 years, which is the accuracy of information about elections. And the president obviously just derailed us again with respect to that because he said that tabulation machines aren't used in any other country. Well, they're used in lots of other countries, and you can figure that out with a 5-second Google search. He says that tabulation machines are slow, expensive, and inaccurate, when in fact every single study has found that these same tabulators that are used to grade SAT tests, where you would fill in the ovals, are the same tabulators that are being used just to read the ovals on your ballot. They've been used for many decades. They're fast, they're inexpensive, and they are very, very, very accurate because they have to be in order to be certified by his U.S. Elections Assistance Commission.